So like I said, you notice they're going into the apocrypha now, man. This guy E.J. Love, he goes into the apocrypha because when you open up the apocrypha, man, you know that book is a divine book because when you read it, it lines up exactly with the scriptures, because it's part of the scriptures. So this 8th verse right here.
All right, shalom. First and foremost, want to give our praises to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahushai, Ba'Hashem Rakakodash. Want to give double honors to the apostles of great millstone that rule well. Salutations to the men of the hopeful and sincere elect. This is Makazar from Trinidad camp. Just want to do a quick edification for the elect's sake. Now, I don't really have much time. I have like 14% battery life, and my charger ain't really working all that well. So, through the Spirit of the Most High, hopefully I could finish this class before, Satan intervenes. Now, as Apostle Tar just said, the apocrypha comes directly from the Bible. They line up. All right? And it are people that discrediting the apocrypha because in their mind, it's not authentic. But when you go through the apocrypha, you will actually realize that it lines up. It goes hand in hand with the scriptures. Because guess what? Daniel spoke about 4 beasts. But when you go into the scriptures, it mainly speaks about the first 2. But in the apocrypha, it actually goes into the last 2, which is the Greek and the Romans. All right? It goes in depth into it. All right? So what I'm going to do here is just go through some scriptures just to show that, guess what? The apocrypha actually lines up with the Bible. All right? Now, a while back, Apostle Aramlab brought this out. This is John 10 verse 22. It says, and it was at Jerusalem the feast of dedication, and it was winter. Now guess what? Let's do a word search. All right, dedication in the Old Testament. The feast of dedication, everyone. All right, you won't see the feast of dedication in the Old Testament because why? The feast of dedication wasn't implemented during the time of it wasn't mentioned in the Old Testament, I should say. All right, but it was mentioned in the Apocrypha. All right, and here we see Israel keeping it during the time of the Lord. Here we see Israel keeping it during the time of the Lord, and this is when it was implemented. This is 1 Maccabees chapter 1 verse, I go straight to the point. This is 54. It says, look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it, even in that it was dedicated with songs, all right, and cisterns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell on their faces and worshiping and praising Yahweh of heaven, who had given them good success. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days and offered burnt offerings with gladness and sacrifices and deliverance and praise. And they decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed and hung doors upon them. Thus they were very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year, by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month of Caslu, with mirth and gladness. So now, when you look up the month of Caslu, because in John 10 and 22, it says keep it in the winter. Now, when you look up Caslu, it says Kislev, directed from Caslu. It says Kislev, the 9th month of the year in the Jewish calendar. All right, see the table at calendar. Now when they come lower down, it says what? Kislev, Judaism, in the Jewish calendar, the 9th month of the year according to biblical reckoning, and the 3rd month of the civil year, usually falling within November and December. And usually around those November, December would be what? Would be winter. All right. So it backing up. It's showing that, guess what? In the Apocrypha, it said keep it in the month of Caslu. And when you go into the New Testament, it was kept during the time of winter. So it goes hand in hand. So that is one point. All right. Now, there's the second point. The second point is I'll go to the Old Testament. This is Isaiah chapter 37. Isaiah chapter 37 verse boom 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 boom. I said that verse 33. Isaiah 37 verse 33. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh concerning the king of Assyria, he shall not come into this city, nor shoot an arrow, because when the king of Assyria, Shalmaneser the fifth, came against Israel, the northern tribe, that was around 722 BC. And I think it was like 18 to 20 years after they tried to go back at Jerusalem. But the Lord said what? They ain't gonna get to come into this city, nor shoot an arrow, nor come before it with shields, nor cast a bank against it. All right, jumping down, verse 36, it says, then the angel of Yahweh went forth and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000. And when they arose early in the morning, behold, they were all dead corpses. So Sennacherib, king of Assyria, departed and went and returned and dwelt in Nineveh. All right. Now Nineveh is the same vicinity of the Babylonians. All right. And it came to pass as he was worshipping in the house of Nisroch, because when you look up Nisroch, it says it's a Babylonian god. So it shows that the Babylonians and the Assyrians were the same people. They were all Assyrians. Even Apostle Tahab brought that out. They were all Assyrians. All right. His god, that Abimelech and Sharezer, his sons, smote him with the sword, and they escaped into the land of Armenia, and Esarhaddon, his son, reigned in his stead. So now this in the Old Testament, it says that Abimelech and Sharezer, the sons of Sennacherib, actually put him to death, and Esarhaddon reigned in his stead. So his son took over after two of his sons killed him. All right. So let me go to the Apocrypha now. In the Apocrypha, there's the book of Tobit. Tobit chapter 1, verse 18. It says, and if the king Sennacherib had slain any, when he was come and fled from Judea, I buried them privily. All right. So it says, and if the king Sennacherib had slain any, when he was come and fled from Judea. So that was after he went on that failed attempt in Jerusalem. So he came back and he took out his anger against Israel. All right. He took out his anger against Israel. All right. It says, I buried them privily, for in his wrath he killed many, but the bodies were not found when they were sought for of the king. All right. Now jumping down, verse 22, it says, and there passed not 25 days before two of his sons killed him, and they fled into the mountains of Ararat. Now remember, in the Old Testament, it said they fled to Armenia. All right. Now here it says they fled to Ararat, the mountains of Ararat, and Sardonius, his son, reigned in his stead. Now here in the Apocrypha, it didn't call the name of the two sons, but in the Old Testament, it called the name of the two sons. All right. In the Old Testament, it says that Esarhaddon, his son, took over. Here in the Apocrypha, it says Sardonius, his son, reigned in his stead, who appointed over his father's accounts and over all his affairs Acharias, my brother, Anahiel's son. All right. So some people might say, see, guess what? The sons, they fled to Armenia, but in the Apocrypha it said Ararat. In the Old Testament it said Esarhaddon, but in the Apocrypha it said Sardonius. So it is not the same people, but guess what? It's the same people and it's the same incident. And I'm gonna prove that real quick. First of all, let's look up the word Armenia and Ararat. All right. Now, when you look up on the map, here you have Ararat. If you can see Ararat right there, and Ararat is actually Mount Ararat in the vicinity of Armenia. You see Armenia right below in the red, and Ararat there bold in the black. All right. So Mount Ararat is in the vicinity of Armenia. So one said directly where they went. They went to the Mount of Ararat, and the other just gave an area where they went to. They went into Armenia. All right. Just like one might say, hey, they fled to America, and the other might say, hey, they fled to New Jersey, which New Jersey is in America. So they just gave a more precise location. All right. Now, when you look up Ararat meaning, in the dictionary, it says a mountain in Turkey near the borders of Iran and Armenia. So it shows that, I guess what? Ararat, Mount Ararat, with the scripture said in Apocrypha, is around the vicinity of Armenia. Alright? So it's in the same place. So now let's go to the names. In the Old Testament, it called him let's start with the Apocrypha. Let's start with what the Apocrypha says. All right. The Apocrypha says that boom 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 boom. Yeah, it says Sardonius, his son, right? So when you look up Sardonius, it says Sarkedonus, Codex Vaticanus, Sarkedonus, Codex. All right. Here it says an incorrect spelling, both in the King James Version and the Revised Version, British and America, for Sarkedonus in Tobit 121, another form of Esarhaddon. So it shows you the name Sarkedonus is just another name for Esarhaddon. So Esarhaddon and Sarkedonus are one and the same people, because look, you have to do research. All right. Now let's look up the name Esarhaddon. Esarhaddon, Akkadian. All right. It says Asher has given a brother in Hebrew. All right. It says was the king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire who reigned 681 to 669 BC. He was the youngest son of Sennacherib, and was the West Shamite and the West Semitic queen. All right. Rise to power. All right. So rise to power. It says, when despite being the youngest son, Esarhaddon, which as it shows is Sarkedonus, the same person, was named successor by his father. His elder brothers tried to discredit him. So one of the reasons why they killed him, because they wanted that throne. Oracles had named him as the person to free the exiles and rebuild Babylon. The destruction, because when it said that to rebuild Babylon, because during that time it was having real insurrections happening in Assyria at that time, because the Babylonians gained the independence from the Assyrians in 612 BC. So it was nations just uprising. All right, so the Assyrians were losing their grip. So when Israel went in 722 BC and the Babylonians took over in 600 BC, that was like 120 years roughly. So within that 120 years, when you read 2nd Ezra 14, when Israel said that they're going to leave and go to their own land, it would have been close to the end when the Babylonians were conquering them. Because if you're in captivity to a nation, you can't just rise up while that nation in power and say you're going to leave and go to your own land. No, they would not allow you. So it would have been close to the end of the reign of the Assyrians, which would have been close to around 612 to 605, around 612 to 600 BC, when the Babylonians were coming up as a power. Israel might have, don't quote me, I said it would have been an average time where Israel might have left and came over to the Americas. All right. So going back, it says the destruction which Sennacherib was felt to have been sacrilegious. Esarhaddon remained crown prince, but was forced into exile at an unknown place beyond Hanigalbat. That is beyond the Euphrates, most likely somewhere in what is now southern Turkey. Now here's the point. It says Sennacherib was murdered in 681 BC. The biblical account is that Esarhaddon's brothers killed their father after the failed attempt to capture Jerusalem in 2 Kings 19:37. Esarhaddon returned to the capital of Nineveh in forced marches and defeated his rival brothers in 6 weeks of civil war. He was formally declared the king in the spring of 681 BC, and his brothers fled into the land of Ararat. So it just shows you the same thing. It says here they fled to Ararat, but here in Wikipedia they actually called him Esarhaddon, which Esarhaddon was the name mentioned in the Old Testament, but in Wikipedia it said the land they fled to was Ararat, which was mentioned in the apocrypha. So it shows that even in Wikipedia it put in the contrast between both, showing you guess what, they fled into that same region, and it's the same account where the two brothers putting the father to death, and then he ended up taking over. All right, he took over as ruler. So the apocrypha, as Apostle Tahar said it, the apocrypha and the Bible goes hand in hand, because they basically speaks about the same thing. Some just go more in depth than one on certain events, but the apocrypha stems directly from the scriptures. Okay, so with that, hope it was edifying to the elect. All right, through the Spirit of the Most High, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. So I give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Haraka Kodash. I want to give double honor to the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well. Salutations to the men of the Hopeland Saints say elect. This is Makazah saying Shalom. Stay strong.